Hi, I'm Linda May, and I am a reader for Crystal Magic Psychic Center in Sedona, Arizona, and I'm here today to talk to you about this full moon period that we are beginning on the afternoon of Wednesday, April 1st. It's actually early evening at 7:12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's afternoon like on the East Coast, as well as the new moon period on Friday, April 17th at 4:52 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I do both of them together, so I'm doing like a whole month's worth of moon cycles, just so this is the new way that I'm doing these. It's just once a month. But I do still post them right before the full moon and right before the new moon, so you can watch and get what you need at the time. This particular full moon is known as the pink moon due to the appearance of early spring wildflowers. And I love that. I have so many pink blossoms in my yard. I have all kinds of like little bushes and trees that are all starting to bloom now, and a lot of them are pink, so it's kind of cool. It's a marker of rebirth, renewal, blossoming, and the courage to step into growth. It reminds us that growth doesn't need to be forced. Like spring itself, it arrives naturally when conditions are right. And right now, it is the right time. It's interesting. We've had a little bit of a warmer end of winter and the beginning of spring. And it does give us a time of hope, optimism, and a gentle confidence in what is unfolding. We have a full moon when the sun and moon are considered in opposition. Astrologically, it means that both the sun and moon are in opposing signs, and at the time of this full moon, the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Libra, exactly opposed the sun on April 1st at 7:12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, as I mentioned. The signs of Aries and Libra are interesting. They give us the culmination and promise of fulfillment. You find that it's a time to balance between meeting our own personal needs, which is more the Aries energy, and also attending to the needs of others, which is more the Libran energy. The Libra Moon is very diplomatic and fair-minded, and it may be a time when you do have epiphanies about relationships and stuff like that, so do keep that in mind. Aspect-wise, some of which we mentioned at the new moon when I did the full moon, new moon last month, but the new moon in Pisces on March 18th included sensitivity and emotional awareness. And we also saw the opening of channels of communication with Jupiter in the mix, and the spring equinox was just after the new moon, which is a time of rebirth, so that fits right in. On March 24th, the moon squared Mars, and Venus and Chiron sextiled the moon, which is a great time to establish connections and open to love. And that's mostly the Venus energy, but it's also other stuff. The Chiron has had to do with the taking care of your own inner healing, which allows you to open up to it. So that's kind of cool too. This moves us into the full moon on April 1st, and the clarity, balance, and diplomacy that I originally had previously mentioned. On April 9th, Mars enters Aries, which has us feeling extra motivated, charged up, and ready to take action. That's a typical Aries reaction. And just a few days later, from April 12th to 20th, we have Mars joining with Saturn and Neptune, which is a powerful time of creating and planting seeds. It allows you to make a wish, set an intention, and leap right in. So that's the Mars energy, which is the ruling planet of Aries, so it does totally make sense. Do be aware that the Neptune energy in the mix may cause us to do some grandiose or delusional ideas that don't necessarily reflect reality, so do be cautious. But luckily, on April 15th, Mercury enters Aries, and that speeds up our mental ability. And it may inadvertently guide us into leaping before we look. So do find a sense of balance, as I mentioned earlier, as much as possible. And then on April 16th, the Sun conjuncts Chiron, and that makes it a good time to reflect on some of those lessons that you've experienced from old wounds and release them to God, Goddess, as once you own it, you can just release it. But if you don't own it, then it kind of stays under the surface and it just bugs you in your life. So it's a really good idea to look at that stuff. This all leads us to the Aries new moon, which is on April 17th at 4:52 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, as I mentioned. The Aries new moon is a great time for setting intentions. All new moons are, creating plans and making goals. However, do ask to be guided and trust in the process as you do so. Believe in yourself and all that this season is offering you. The new moon is urging you to slow down and proceed at a comfortable pace. you find more clarity and courage as you listen to your own inner guidance and a clear sense of direction. And that's all part of the Aries energy, because Aries can rush into things, but this is saying, okay, it's time to start looking at this and seeing how much we're doing that we need to do, especially after all those aspects I just talked about. And this moves us from the Aries energy to the Taurus energy on April 20th, which is when the sun enters Taurus. And you become more grounded, more earthy, more stable. And that's part of why, this is just a couple days after the new moon. So that's part of the reason why you are being, slow down and proceed at a comfortable pace. It's all part of that. So it is time to catch your breath. The previous weeks have been very charged and very busy. It's time to catch your breath, slow down now, focus on what's important, and don't spread yourself too thin. And then on April 24th, the Venus enters Gemini. And that one of the things that does, it's kind of cool, because you'll find that your social life is actually lighting up. It's a great time to socialize, to network, ask for help when needed, all of that kind of stuff. Communicating with others. As you do so, you gain clarity. It's also a great time for any kind of communication-based projects, like writing a book or creating a podcast. So it might be actually the best time for me to do the next moon cycle video, actually recording the video, so it's usually a little about like 5 to 7 days before the actual event. So who knows, it might just be the perfect time, and it would be perfectly in alignment with that Venus and Gemini energy. Now on April 26th, Uranus enters Gemini, and that sets up a brand new cycle that will last for 7 years. Uranus will be in the sign of Gemini for 7 years. So that brings a lot of awakening. It does remind you to go with the flow and not let yourself become rattled by things. Uranus does like to surprise us at times. That's part of what Uranus is about. But this all moves us into the full moon on May 1st, which I will be talking about next time. So now, we're now fully into the season. This is the other stuff that I like to do on this podcast. We are now fully into the season of spring, and we're moving towards Beltane, which is on May 1st, which is the same day as the next full moon. Spring is all about rebirth and seed planting time. So it is a time of planning and expectancy and assessing goals for the seasons to come, as I mentioned. So the aspects and everything I talked about are right in alignment with what the seasons are saying too. Beltane is when nature is in full bloom, and it's a time of fertility and the union of the masculine and feminine, both within and without. So that is another time to look at relationships and stuff like that. It's a time of purification. And it's interesting because in my Beltane ceremonies, or basically in the ancient days, one of the things that they would do is when the herds were locked up in the barn all winter, they believed they had all these impurities around them, and they'd put them out to the field to pasture when spring started turning towards summer, which is what Beltane is. And they believed that fire had the ability to remove all impurities. So they'd walk the herds between these two big bonfires that they'd build and walk the herds between and let them out to pasture in a pure state. So that's also part of this time of purification. This is the time of year when they would do that. So it's something to think about. And when I was doing live rituals, I would have two torches or some kind of fire pits or something where people could walk through, purify their own lives. And when I was doing them online, I would actually have these little stuffed cows that I'd walk between two candles. It was really cute. Anyway, the traditional Celtic tree calendar, which is based on the moon cycles with the new year beginning at Samhain on October 31st, has the tree for this period. It's the March-April moon cycle, okay? So we talked a little bit about Ash last time because the moon cycle actually starts with the new moon. So this is Ash, and we talked about that a little bit. And it's associated with inner knowledge, ancient knowledge, luck, and support. So it does mean that we've kind of had that for this cycle going forth, and we're still in it. That's part of the full moon energy too. And it's uniting the inner and outer, as above, so below. So that's all what the moon energy for this time is. But then once we get to the new moon, which I was just talking about, on April 17th, then we move into the sign of Hawthorn. The that's the tree oracle for hawthorn, okay? And hawthorn is about cleansing and purification and protection of the sacred. So it's sort of in alignment with what I was talking about with the purification of the cows, you know, or the herds going out to the pasture. It is a time to connect with unseen realms, such as the fairy realms and other inner knowings and that sort of thing. So that's all part of what this hawthorn is about, okay? It is also reminding us to let go, forgive whenever possible, and maintain your own sovereignty throughout all of this. And now I'm going to go into my card pulls. We start with this Druid Animal Oracle. This is my favorite deck. It's the one that I do my readings with. It's exactly 33 cards, which I think is quite sacred. The cards are beautiful and the messages are deep. So what we got for this period of this new moon, full moon cycle, interesting, is the seal. So this is a very interesting one, and it does fit in many ways because the seal stands for love, but it also stands for longing, and it stands for longing to the love to be different than what we wish. So it could be a partnership that isn't working out. It could be somebody left, somebody passed on to the other side. But there's a part of us that feels a little bit of a heartache from it. So you see the sadness of the seal. But the truth is, when we focus on love as, you know, a heartache kind of thing, then that's what we keep seeing. We keep reminding ourselves of that. So this rainbow is the promise that if you recognize that we are all love and we are always loved, that we are all ultimately one, right? That then you realize that you can change the way you look at love. And when you change the way you look at love, you start seeing it around you in new ways. So, for example, when my husband passed away, I felt his spirit around me like immediately. Like I was at his bedside a couple minutes after he passed away, and I could feel his spirit, and I have felt it ever since he passed away in 2016. So it's been 10 years and I still feel his presence. So I know that love is still there, even if he's not physically with me, you know. And then I've had relationships where people have left and it's like, is this really the right, you know? And I said, and I realized, oh, I learned lessons from that. That was important. So I can love them and let them go, you know, and that's okay too. So that happens in our lives. And then sometimes we can see love in places we don't expect it, like through friendships and even coworkers and different things like that that we get along with and do well with. When we see love, we affirm love and we feel love. So actually, in some ways, this has to do with some of the communications and the love relationship stuff I was talking about. It's the other side of it. It's more of a negative look at it, but it's also seeing how you can change it, okay? Pretty, like I said, deep cards. Okay, now this, the Druidcraft Tarot. This is when I do a daily pull from, and whatever the message of the day is. So we'll see what our message is for this reading. Yeah, sure we will. I can shuffle these. Yes, I can. Let's see. So we got the lady, okay? And in other tarot decks, she has other names, but in this deck, she's called the lady. And basically, what she stands for is fertility, nurturing, abundance, new ideas. So again, it's sort of in alignment with a lot of the things we were talking about, the new ideas, the going forward, the fertility of the lands, actually. So that's actually part of the season. So it's actually pretty cool. But there she is, pregnant with all kinds of possibilities. All right, now the Whispering Woods deck. This is the trees and the message that they have for us. Very interesting. We got learn. Take a lesson from the owls. Deeply observe the night, and you'll become a little wiser in the day. So to me, that's sort of in alignment with what we talked about here. It's like knowing that we have lessons to learn sometimes, but we can, you know, we become wiser and wiser as we learn the things that we need to learn. So that's actually really great. Now the Sedona Code deck, the sacred sites in, so it's actually Sedona Spirit Wind. It says Sedona Code on the back, so I always think of that. But these are all the sacred sites in Sedona. They all have a special meaning. And we got Medicine Wheel. This also has to do a little bit with healing. I alchemize perfect health and well-being. So basically this is saying that that's part of what we aim for as we balance ourselves, the medicine wheel, as we walk around the four quarters of the medicine wheel, and we get in touch with all of the elements and all that. We find our own perfect balance alchemized within ourselves so that we have the health and well-being that we really would like. So that's pretty cool. That's our message from there. Now the Light Bearers deck, these are angels coming to earth to help awaken humanity. Really beautiful deck, beautiful messages. And let's see what message we get today from the angels. Angel Sabathiel. Now this is also right in alignment with some of the things I just talked about. Communication is the key. Look to the divine light within you for direction on what or how to say what is important in the moment. Words have power and are best used to bring light to a situation for the healing of all. There it is. I'll read it again because it's pretty deep. Communication is the key. Look to the divine light within you for direction on what or how to say what is important in the moment. Words have power and are best used to bring light to a situation for the healing of all. Perfect. It's so in alignment with, the inner and the outer balance, all the different things that I mentioned in many different ways. That's so cool. So I will be back before the full moon on May 1st to tell you more. And in the meantime, if you would like a psychic soul reading or counseling, both in person, by Zoom, or phone, I am at Crystal Magic Psychic Center most Mondays from 2 to 6 and Fridays from 10 to 2. And we also have incredible psychics here. We have people with all different kinds of skills that you can use to find out what you want, from mediumship, astrology, all kinds of things. I mean, honestly, even healing stuff. So you can read about any of our readers by going to the crystalmagicpsychiccenter.com website, and you can read about the readers. And I say go to the one that you call to, whoever it is. Even if it's me, that's great, and if not, that's okay. The one you're called to is the one you need to go to for the message that they'll give you. So I do want to wish you blessings of this moon season to you, and I want you to remember you are always loved.